often maintain ties with their exes for various reasons, including seeking a continuous source of narcissistic supply. Woo! Maintaining control. Wow, we see this a lot. And potentially feeling a need to punish or manipulate their ex. Woo, Lord, Martell had displayed here on TV, man. He had really tried to punish Melody in so many ways. So they may also experience you guys, they experience heartbreak, y'all. They experience neglect too, but anyway, they also experience a sense of narcissistic injury when rejected. I heard Martell when they first got a divorce, that's all he kept talking about was being rejected, right? And his feeling was, whoa, it was me. He was the victim, you know. Narcissistic injury when rejected and struggling to let go. Oh wow, we see this in Martell a lot. And Ralph gonna stay in that basement as long as he can. He's struggling to let go, y'all. Martell's struggling to let go. Even though he's been divorced, he's still hoping that this woman will come back to him. They're struggling to let go. Ralph was just so happy he could have turned star wheels and flipped because the court still allowing him to stay in that basement. We can see how black women, they're not even protected in the courtroom, y'all. Leaving them to cling to the relationship for validation or access to information. Yes, access to information, y'all. So that's what I mean by these two, Martell and Ralph. They are friends. They are both narcissists, and they both trying not to let go of their exes. All right, you guys, I'm coming. Yeah, they both have a lot of similarities. I like what Trish said. Trish said right here. When Martell violated, right, he should have been locked up immediately after that stunt. Yeah, he violated big time. Yes, big time. And so, woo. And Potential says, happy Sunday, Miss Pinky, and everyone. Is Miss Pinky here? Well, thank you. Oh, you talking to me? I'm Miss BT, Black Titanic. Yeah, okay, you guys. We've been to talk about going to a little bit of Black history, you guys. So we're going to talk about the Titanic, the sinking of the Titanic in 1912, you guys. Most people, if you watched that movie, you only saw Caucasian people. But the fact is, Black people was aboard the Titanic. Now, this picture right here is, name her Oya. If anybody know about Oya, the ancestors call her Oya. She's the wind goddess. Our ancestors believe that the wind is a female, y'all. How about that? And name her Oya. Oya is the wind goddess, right? You make Oya mad, that's when you see that tornado come through here. But yes, so that's who Oya is, the wind goddess. One thing about the wind, right? It's invisible. You can't see it with your natural eyes, but you can feel it. So you know it's real. It's so many things on this earth. We just get in tune to what's going on this earth. Invisible things, right? We know they're there. Let's talk about gravity. Gravity is this energy that keeps us on this ground and earth, right? We know it's there, but we can't see it. So Oya and gravity and what else, y'all? There's a lot of invisible things that we can feel, but we can't see. Oya, the wind goddess. That's what our ancestor called. Ogun, I guess, the god of iron and steel. Ogun was just the man, and Oya is the woman. But anyway, that is my auntie over there in the corner. I did do have a book club this time, and last year it was the spiritual guide from the ancestors. So I talked about Oya and Ogun in the book. That's in the book Black Titanic. The book Black Titanic is just named after the Titanic. Black people aboard the Titanic. All right, we're going to talk about this man right here. You had Joseph LaRue aboard the Titanic. He was royalty, y'all. They had better enlist that man, because you know why? Joseph LaRue uncle, Cincinnati LeConte, was the president of Haiti at that time. He was royalty. He was a black engineer. He was an educated man. But anyway, he was married to a white lady, right? They had biracial children on there. So they said that he couldn't be in first class, even though he had all his education, because he was black, right? So they wouldn't allow him in first class, right? With his wife and his children. His wife loved him. So what did she do? Whatever class they sent her husband in, this is Joseph LaRue. Here you go. What and his family, whatever class they whatever boat, say classes, class 1 would be your rich people, class 2 would be your you'll live a lot better than class 3 down there with the poor whites and the poor blacks, right? And the bows of the Titanic was where the black men's were. The black men's was working. They was the muscles of that boat, right? They had to put in that coal into these big old boilers. That's what they put that coal in, to keep the fuel, to keep the boat afloat, to move. That's what. Now, his uncle was the president of Haiti. And in Haiti, his grandson, his grandfather, oh God, I can't think of his name, but the grandfather led Haiti into that revolution, y'all. He was some kind of army guy, and he was tough too. That's how Haiti won that war. Y'all know about Haiti and the revolution, right? And next, we're going to be talking about that's tied to the Titanic that y'all don't know is Granville Woods. Granville Woods, I got to say this first. The first wireless communication came from your ancestors, the drums. Back in the day, there were no telephone or nothing like that. They communicated with drums. They told a story to drums. They answered each other to drums. So when they went over there in Africa and kidnapped your ancestors, they weren't allowed to play the drums because Esau couldn't understand not a word they were saying. Another thing I just want to throw in there, quit saying that your ancestors couldn't read or write. They could read or write, but not in that language, right? Just like Esau couldn't read or write their language. So, but they could read and write They just couldn't understand that language when they got over here. So anyway, Glenville Wood, he invented the multi-telegraph system. Now, this was important because when he died a year before or 2 years before the Titanic sank. But see, the Titanic was using his multiplex telegram system, right? Now, this is the first time that plane to plane could communicate, boat to boat to communicate. He saved so many lives above that Titanic because they were using his invention on that Titanic. They also, with Granville Wood, used in the boiler. When I talk about the boilers, I talk about the bowels of the Titanic, where your brothers was. How all those black men got to be down there was a cold strike, and the poor white men and them Irish had went on strikes. So they went and got the brothers to work for them. Because the Titanic, that was his first time sailing, hadn't sailed, or second time sailing, and they did not want to lose all that money because of that strike. So they went and got the brothers. The brothers was the muscles down there. So how Granville Wood is tied to, he built them boilers down there. Them big old boilers where they put the coal in for fuel to keep the boat going. That's what he had built down there. Yeah. And not only there, he built boilers on a whole lot of ships. Granville Wood also was a captain on one of those ships called the Ironside also. But anyway, Granville Wood, Attorney Crump repost from Black History Study. Granville T was born on April the 23rd, 1856. He was an inventor who made key contribution to the development of a telephone transmitter. The first telephone, y'all. A Charlie wheel and a multiplex telegraph. That's what I was talking about aboard the Titanic. Of which he defeated a lawsuit by Thomas Edison to appropriate his invention. Now, Thomas Edison always was at this brother's stuff. He kept him in court, but he was so intelligent that he represented his own self. And he always won when Esau would take him to court trying to steal his invention, right? Y'all know they steal our invention. Born in Columbus, Ohio, Granville T. Woods held various engineering and industrial jobs before establishing a company to develop several electrical apparatus. Now, that's why I like a brother like that. He educated, but he got sense enough to know that if he ain't got a job in his career, he'll use his skill, even if it's just to mop the floor, to keep food and keep lights on for his family, right? So that's what he did. This man was famous, but what did he do? He went and did industrial jobs. Now, 1878, Woods worked for 8 months for the Springfield, Jackson, and Pomeroy Railroad Company. So he did a lot of invention in the railroad also. Now, Granville Wood is tied to the Titanic. Now I'm gonna get up in the show the Titanic. This is the black version, y'all. So this is about my auntie. She was from Bessemer, Alabama as well, y'all. So she put Bessemer, Alabama on the map during the Great Depression. So yeah. And my auntie, y'all may not know this, but
It's Empress Radio underscore. Okay, so let's get into
Oh
this
no.
trying to
No, no,
spill
no,
a
no, no,
situation.
no.
So you
That's
guys
not
know Maurice
y'all.
has sued the blogger Black Titanic for defamation, right?
Oh God. I didn't want that mess up there. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm not trying to clear my head from that mess. Yeah. So let me find the right thing for y'all. Woo, Lord. Hold on. I didn't want that mess clear in there at all. Oh, well, let me go on. That remind me. Let me just go on and put this court paper through right quick and update y'all while I'm doing this. But okay, let's see. I'm just updating you guys on this court thing. This for 415 on 415, right? This court has correctly issued an order on 41525 rejecting and denying Scott's litigation privilege defense. There is no absolute litigation privilege in Alabama. There's no privilege sentence herein by any stretch of the imagination for the wrongful acts described herein and above, which include Rule 45, falsifications, silences, and the subsequent terrorizing of a victim, Griffin, during a criminal proceeding based upon the facts and because of the facts stated herein. Equally, there is no such privilege for own. This court rejected the litigation privilege defense on 41525, and the ruling speaks for itself. Now, that's what happened in court, you guys. That's what happened on 41525. This is what I'm talking about, and I'm going to repeat myself again. Y'all might hear stuff from January on way back when. We've been to court on that. We done resolved that. We're on 41525 is what we're on. On that day in court, right? Y'all see what 41525, the court rejected the litigation privilege defense. Oh boy. OWN allows Scott to violate its own privacy policy. OWN gave Scott permission to file a cause of action, violating even its own privacy policy, which strictly forbids the collecting of data without consent. Griffin has never given consent for the unlawful access to her info. And that's all I can give you guys. You guys, y'all know where to go. If you guys want to see this document, it's a 90-page document being read by True T Uncensored. Y'all have to go to her web. That's where y'all go hear this 90-page document, right? So only thing I could pull out for you guys to let you guys know to clear up what happened on 41525 in the courtroom. Maurice was not let off the hook, but OWN was let off the hook. Thank you. Okay, that's it. Yeah. Just to clear some stuff up for y'all. Anyway, so we still on. Ain't that something about Ralph? Ralph in Martell. No, one of they buddies, y'all. This is the unsolved disappearing of Melinda Boyd. The disappearing of Melinda still remains an unsolved mystery. Over 100 years ago, oral history has been told by the elders. Is that Melinda Boyd was an unlisted passenger above the Titanic. She was traveling as a personal caregiver and with an independent European contractor. Of course, we must listen to the elders. Just listening to the elders lets you take a journey through their minds. And it's like walking through a library because they have ancestors' knowledge, because they have old untold stories. This is Black Titanic. Hit that like button, share, and subscribe. Tisha is two-faced and she beefing with everybody. Y'all was her future sister-in-law because
anti-beliefs. I'm here to tell you.
So this letter was, it's from my memory, y'all. Don't ask me to prove it because I can't. I'm just going strictly by my memory. So we're just going to say this letter is for entertainment purposes only, but based on the true story. Melinda Boyd was a nurse, and her future sister-in-law, Ellen Jones, described the sinking ship. So I'm going to tell y'all about the character. By the way, this is taken out of the book Black Titanic. Right here, Ellen Jones. She was her future sister-in-law because Melinda was engaged to her brother Ernest. But Ellen Jones could pass for she was white. She could pass for white because she was taken advantage of by the colonizer with her African American mother, a Negro mother. Her Negro mother. We're using the term Negro in here. Y'all, this is 1912, y'all. So anyhow, let's get on with the letters. So you got Ernest, you got Melinda, and Alexander is my grandfather. So, and that's Melinda's brother. Letter to Melinda's brother, Alexander Boyd, from Ellen Jones, who was the Negro lookout person because she could pass for white. In other words, they would send her on the first, second class area to spy to see what was going on because the Negroes was in the bowels of the Titanic. You guys probably never heard of the bowels of the Titanic. That's just like the basement. It was hot down there. That's where all the boilers and heater was. That's where all the hard labors was. They call them the Black Gang because they used to take the coals and have to throw them in the boilers down there. Those big boilers the coal that they use for fuels. But before I go on with the letter, let me tell you how they ended up there. The Negroes ended up in the bowels of the Titanic, and they were called the Black Gang because it was a coal strike. And during the coal strike, none of the white laborers would go to work. So black men went to work and took their place. So that's how a lot of them got on the Titanic. They'll tell you that, blacks weren't allowed, but it was during that coal strike and they would have lost a hell of a lot of money if they couldn't go or sell. So that's what happened. That's how a lot of blacks got on there. But anyway, let's start with the letters. As the boat began to sink and water filled the lower decks, only the white immigrants and poor white Americans was allowed to leave. Melinda pushes me through the screaming crowd. This is Ellen, y'all. Melinda pushes me through the screaming crowd, but I held back. I wanted to die with dignity as a Negro, an African, with my brother and friends. Melinda and the other Negro friends begged me to leave, yelling, "Who would tell our story as well as notify our families?" Now, the water was up to my waist, and while my Negro friends and I was trying to leave the bottom deck, the gate was locked, and in desperation, the males began to kick the gate down. Suddenly, the gate opened, and the white crew members began to shoot any black face on sight. My brother Ernest, remember Ellen is describing the scene. My brother Ernest shielded himself in front of Melinda and me, and white crew member shot him in the face. That's some cold stuff right there. At once, a big fat white crew member grabbed Melinda's arm and said, "You have to go take care of my wife. She's in labor." Melinda was screaming with grief. She was in shock. And as we entered the top deck, the white female was in labor. Melinda didn't hold her tongue. "You're the same people that killed my friends and the love of my life, and you mean you want me to deliver your white baby? You mean you want me to save your wife's life?" I heard the gun click, says Ellen. I yelled, "I'll help Melinda deliver your baby, but you can't stand over us with a gun to her head. You must leave the room." I yelled, "I want my nurse to go with me." So right now, Ellen is using her white privilege, and she's telling this man that, Melinda works for her, because he thinks she's a white lady. I heard the gun clicked. I yelled, "I'll help Melinda deliver your baby, but you can't stand over us with a gun in our head. You must leave the room." I yelled, "I want my nurse to go with me." Meanwhile, water was rushing fast on the upper deck, and you can hear the minigun shooting, as well as smell death in the air. The man left the room, and Melinda never touched a woman in labor. Instead, she wrote a letter for Alex and wrapped it inside plastic and stuck it down my bra. As the boat sank, water separated. Now, the water was up to my waist, and while my Negro friends and I was trying to leave the bottom deck, the gate was locked, and in desperation, the males began to kick the gate down. Suddenly, the gate opened, and the white crew members began to shoot any black face on sight. My brother Ernest, remember Ellen is describing the scene. My brother Ernest shielded himself in front of Melinda and me, and white crew member shot him in the face. That's some cold stuff right there. At once, a big fat white crew member grabbed Melinda's arm and said, "You have to go take care of my wife. She's in labor." Melinda was screaming with grief. She was in shock. And as we entered the top deck, the white female was in labor. Melinda didn't hold her tongue. "You're the same people that killed my friends and the love of my life, and you mean you want me to deliver your white baby? You mean you want me to save your white life? I heard the gun click, says Ellen. I yell, I'll help Melinda deliver your baby, but you can't stand over us with a gun to her head. You must leave the room. I yelled, I want my nurse to go with me. So right now, Ellen is using her white privilege, and she's telling this man that, Melinda works for her, because he thinks she's a white lady. I heard the gun click. I yelled, I'll help Melinda deliver your baby, but you can't stand over us with a gun in our head. You must leave the room. I yelled, I want my nurse to go with me. Meanwhile, water was rushing fast on the upper deck, and you can hear the minigun shooting, as well as smell death in the air. The man left the room, and Melinda never touched a woman in labor. Instead, she wrote a letter for Alex and wrapped it inside plastic and stepped it down my bra. As the boat sank, water separated us. The pregnant white woman was washed away, as well as Melinda. I was washed overboard. I saw some records that I could cling to. So many black people was in there. So this says Attorney Crump repost from Black History Study. Granville was born on April the 23rd, 1856. Was an inventor who made key contributions to the development of a telephone transmitter. You guys, you hear that? Telephone transmitter, which in fact we use the telephone today. A trolley wheel and a multiplex telegram. Now, the multiplex telegram is what they use aboard the Titanic. He is tied to the Titanic, his invention. Now, the multiplex telegram was used for boats to boats to communicate, airplane to airplane to communicate, train to train to communicate. This was your first wireless communication. I mean, besides your ancestors did do the drums. I want to just back up and say he was the second, because the drums was the first wireless communication by our ancestors. That's how they spoke, in their tongue and their tribe. This is why the drums were forbidden when they first brought them over here as prisoners, because Esau did not understand how to interpret the language, the message that our ancestors were sending towards each other. So now the multiplex telegraph is what they were using aboard the Titanic. And what happened is that he died. He never knew that they were using his invention. Okay? Now, in the multiplex telegram, of which he defeated a lawsuit by Thomas Edison, all those inventors, Esau now was trying to sue this man, but he was so intelligent, so he represented himself and he won those cases. I mean, also I believe he was a captain of a ship by the name of Ironside. Now, this is just going in my head, y'all. So I think he was also. Y'all look that up. I may be wrong. Well, anyway, a lawsuit by Thomas Edison to appropriate the invention. Born in Columbus, Ohio, Granville T. Woods held various engineering and industrial jobs before establishing a company to develop several electrical apparatus. Granville registered nearly 60 patents in his lifetime. In 1976, Woods worked 8 months for the Springfield, Jackson, and Palmyra Railroad Company. I do know that he built stuff for the railroad also. This is Granville Woods. Okay, y'all, this section right here this is a book that I found maybe 11 years later after trying to research to find any book that would explain whether black people was on the Titanic besides me talking about it. But anyway, I found this book finally. This is from the first-hand account. This is the first book that came out after the Titanic sank in 1912, and I had never seen it before. You will never see this again in any other writings about what happened on the Titanic with the blacks that worked on the Titanic. Now I'm gonna talk about the wireless operator. I'm gonna talk about the COD messages. And the reason I brought this in because tied to the Titanic was Granville Woods. He was a black inventor, over 60 patents. In fact, Thomas Edison, he had to sue Thomas Edison because Thomas Edison was trying to steal and claim his stuff. All the white people were trying to claim his stuff, but he held fast. He was bold. He won all his lawsuits. But anyway, the Titanic was using his wireless operator. He was responsible for the first wireless communication from boats, airplanes, trains, you name it, Granville Woods. Anyhow, let me just read this. This was the story told by the bystander afterwards on the pier. One husky Italian told the writer on the pier that the way in which the men who were shot down was horrible. His sympathy was with the men who were shot. They were only trying to save their lives, he said. Wireless operator died at his post. On board the Titanic, the wireless operator with a life belt about his waist was hitting the instrument that was sending out CQD messages warning. Struck on iceberg, said this was the warning message, CQD. Shall I tell the captain to turn back and help? Flashed a reply from the Carpathia, the other book, another boat. Yes, old man. The Titanic wireless operator responded. Guess we'll. An hour later, when the second wireless man came into the box-like room to tell his companion what the situation was, he found a Negro stoker. Say it again. He found a Negro stoker. Now, aboard the Titanic, another name for stoker is a fireman. They work the bows of the Titanic. Y'all probably have never heard of the bows of the Titanic. Let's just say it's the basement. But that was that's how the Negro stokers got on there. They had them on as firemen. It was a cold strike in 1912, and all the white laborers refused to go to work. They had built this exclusive, expensive ship, and they were not going to lose no money. So this is how all these black people got on the Titanic, because it was a cold strike, it was a strike. And they started hiring black people aboard the Titanic. So these Negro stokers, they worked in the bows of the Titanic, and they were shoveling coals into the big boiler. That's what they were doing. It was hot down there, and it was very hot. They were later named as the Black Gang. Also, you did have a few white Irish men down there, but I was told they couldn't take the heat like the black men, so they couldn't stand it down there. But let me get on talking. He found a Negro stoker creeping up behind the operator, and he saw him raise a knife over his head. He said afterwards he was among those rescued, that he realized at once that the Negro intended to kill the operator in order to take his life belt from him. Now y'all know that song. This man wanted a life belt. He was not trying to steal no life belt. And why wouldn't he have a life belt in the first place? Why were blacks refuse a life belt? That is the real question here, and that's what we're looking at. But anyway, let's keep on going. Let me read this over. The Negro intended to kill the operator in order to take the life belt from him. So they had refused to give the blacks aboard the Titanic life belt. The second operator pulled out his revolver and shot the Negro dead. And you know what? It's just something how this is so similar to what my grandfather was telling me. Moving on along, so the Negro was shot dead. What was the trouble? Asked the operator. That Negro was going to kill you and steal your life belt. The second man replied, you know what, this pissing me off. You know what, the nerve of them thinking that they would kill this man because this man wanted a life jacket, and they really felt like they were in the right for killing him. Thanks, old man, said the operator. The second man went on deck to get some more information. He was just in time to jump overboard before the Titanic went down. The wireless operator and the body of the Negro who tried to steal his belt went down together. So that's how they gonna say he went down as a thief for asking for a lifeboat. An hour later, when the second wireless man came into the box-like room to tell his companion what the situation was, he found a Negro stoker. Let me say it again. He found a Negro stoker creeping up behind the operator and saw him raise a knife over his head. They lying. He said afterwards he was among those rescued, that he had realized that once that the Negro intended to kill the operator in order to take his life belt from him. Y'all should have had gave him a life belt from the beginning, you low down dirty dog. Anyway, the second operator pulled out his revolver and shot the Negro dead. What was the problem? Or what was the trouble? Asked the operator. Oh, that Negro was going to kill you and steal your life belt, the second man replied. Thanks, old man, said the operator. The second man went on down the deck to get some more information. He was just in time to jump overboard before the Titanic went down. The wireless operator and the body of the Negro who tried to steal his life belt went down together. So this black man went down as a thief man rather than, someone that needed a life belt to save his own life. The nerve of these people.
The disappearance of Melinda Boyd. The disappearance of Melinda still remains an unsolved history. It's a cold case file. oral history, as told by the elders, is that she was an unlisted passenger aboard the Titanic. She was traveling as a personal caregiver with a European contractor. April 1912, the Titanic hit an iceberg. I thought about jumping overboard, says Melinda, but I was too scared. Then I thought about sliding down the ropes, but oh my God, they were shooting at all black faces in sight. No, when they gave us life jacket. Then the water forced me into the sea. I swam towards European lifeboat, but they pushed me away. Then a big, large wave grabbed me, and it forced me. It twisted me around like I was dancing. Of course, my ancestors continued to search. They used dancing to tell the stories. They told it through folklore. They told it through history. They danced and they danced. And they continued to search and search for me. But I remained lost at sea forever. But you know what? Our ancestors always come back to tell you can't keep our history.
This is your Black History Spotlight. April the 15th, April the 14th to 15th, the Titanic hit an iceberg. They saying it split the boat in half. As a result, thousands and thousands of passengers died. But the hidden secret is that blacks was aboard the Titanic. My auntie Melinda was aboard the Titanic. Joseph LaRue was aboard Titanic. Joseph LaRue was documented because he was royalty. His family was royalty. His uncle was president of Haiti at the time. Uncle Cincinnati LeConte. Yes, that's his name. He was the president of Haiti until his death in April. Oh, anyway, he was the president of Haiti. I don't know, those dates look a little confusing to me, y'all. But he was the great-grandson of Jacques Dessalines. So you see, Joseph LaRue comes from a long line of revolutionary Haiti became independent as a result of Joseph LaRue, uncle and great granddaddy, right? So Joseph LaRue, let's go with this. The president of Haiti at the time was Cincinnati LeConte, right? Now let's move on down, which is Joseph LaRue's uncle. He was aboard the Titanic at that time. He perished. He was also now look, he was the great-grandson of Jean-Jacques Dessalines, a leader of the Haitian Revolution and the first ruler of an independent Haiti, and was the uncle of Joseph LaRue, the only black passenger to perish aboard the Titanic. That's what they would tell y'all, but it was plenty blacks aboard the Titanic. April the 15th, 1912, the Titanic hit an iceberg. Was sinking, says my Aunt Melinda. She sank, she perished. Stay tuned because I'm going to tell y'all the black version of what happened aboard the Titanic.